When you think of Saudi Arabia, what's the first word that pops into your head? For almost a century, it's been one thing: oil. The kingdom's incredible wealth, its power on the world stage, its entire modern identity, it was all built on a sea of black gold. But now, that foundation has some serious cracks, and it's forcing the kingdom to ask a really radical question.
I mean, it's a huge paradox, right? The nation that literally sits on 17% of the entire planet's proven oil reserves is now in this frantic race to build a future where that oil just isn't the main event anymore. So what's the rush? Well, it's because their past was all about what they could pull out of the ground, but they know their future depends entirely on what they can build on top of it. And we are talking about these incredible, gleaming, futuristic cities just rising straight out of the desert sand. It's a total reinvention of a country's economic DNA. Okay, so to really get what's happening, we need to understand this oil paradox. Think of it as a high-stakes race against a clock that's just ticking louder and louder every year. And let's be clear, Saudi Arabia is still the undisputed heavyweight champion of oil. That's 17% of global reserves. That gives them an unbelievable amount of power over the world's economy. But here's the catch. That incredible power is also a huge vulnerability. About 70% of the government's entire income comes from oil. The national budget, all those public sector jobs, the entire economy, it all rides the roller coaster of oil prices. It's been a very profitable ride, but it's a dangerous one.
And this, right here, is the key to the whole thing. The kingdom's leadership knows the problem isn't that they're going to run out of oil. Nope. The real fear is that the world is going to run out of the need for it. The oil isn't going anywhere. The demand is.
And I mean, you can see the writing on the wall everywhere you look. Electric vehicle sales are just exploding. Solar power is now the cheapest electricity in history. Major countries are all setting these net zero goals. The world is actively trying to break up with petroleum, and that is an existential threat to Saudi Arabia's entire way of life.
So what do you do when you see a storm like that on the horizon? You don't just patch up a few leaks, you build a whole new ship. And for Saudi Arabia, that ship is called Vision 2030. It's truly one of the most ambitious national transformations ever attempted.
This whole thing was officially kicked off back in 2016 by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. It's a comprehensive blueprint designed to completely remake the country in less than a single generation. At its heart, Vision 2030 is a massive, high-stakes strategy to finally break the country's oil dependency and reinvent itself as a diversified, global hub for business, tech, and culture. So this isn't just an economic plan, it's a full-blown social and cultural revolution. And the ambitions here are just staggering. They're aiming to increase their non-oil revenue by 6 times. 6. They're creating entirely new industries out of thin air. Socially, they're pushing to dramatically increase the number of women in the workforce and create millions of jobs for a country where, get this, 60% of the population is under 35. All right, so how are they actually going to pull this off? Let's break it down, starting with the first and honestly the most surprising pillar of this new economy: building a green future.
And you know, this isn't just a bunch of fancy promises. The data actually shows they're making some real moves. In areas like green investment and governance, Saudi Arabia is already performing better than its neighbors. They're pouring money into becoming a leader in green tech.
You can see the progress on the ground, literally. They've already planted over 49 million trees as part of their Saudi Green Initiative. It's this massive project to fight back against the desert and restore huge areas of land. So in the very country that's famous for oil wells, they are now building these gigantic solar farms. They've already connected 2.8 gigawatts of renewable energy to their national grid. That's enough to power more than 500,000 homes with clean energy right now. And this green-first thinking is basically baked into the DNA of their huge, headline-grabbing giga projects. You've probably heard of NEOM, right? A planned city region that's roughly the size of Belgium. The whole thing is being designed from the ground up to run entirely on renewable energy. But, and here's where it gets really interesting, alongside this green push, there's a second, equally massive strategy. It's a pivot, really, from one kind of digging to another, with the goal of turning the kingdom into a global minerals superregion. Turns out, oil isn't the only treasure they have buried under all that sand. The kingdom is betting that the next 100 years of its wealth is just waiting there, ready to be mined. And the scale here is just wow. The estimated value of all these untapped mineral reserves, $2.5 trillion. That's trillion with a T. We're talking gold, copper, and a ton of those crucial rare earth minerals.
And here is the core of their strategy. They plan to become a primary supplier of the very materials like lithium, copper, and cobalt that are essential for the world's green transition. So in other words, they're planning to profit from the decline of oil by controlling the building blocks of the entire post-oil economy. It's a massive power play for the 21st century.
Okay, but let's be real for a second. Building a whole new economy from the ground up, from green cities to giant mines, is an unbelievable risk. This is, and I mean this literally, a $1 trillion gamble. The price tag alone is just mind-boggling. To make all of Vision 2030 a reality, the estimated cost is over $3 trillion. Just to put that in perspective for you, that's more than the entire annual economic output of the United Kingdom. And the hurdles are immense. First, there's just the can they actually do it risk. Can they really build these sci-fi projects like The Line, a 170-kilometer-long mirrored city in the desert? Then there's the money. Can they actually attract the hundreds of billions in foreign investment they need? And what about the social changes? Can a traditionally conservative society open up fast enough to become a global hub for tourism and business? And finally, the big one. Will these spectacular projects actually make money? Or will they just become the world's most expensive white elephants in the desert?
So what are we really witnessing here? Is this the birth of a new economic model? The actual blueprint for how a country can reinvent itself for a post-oil age? Or is it the most ambitious, most expensive mirage in history? One thing's for sure, the clock is ticking, and you better believe the entire world is watching.